Death Race 2000 is a 1975 American science fiction action film produced by Roger Corman, directed by Paul Bartel, and starring David Carradine. The film takes place in a dystopian American society in the year 2000, where the murderous transcontinental road race has become a form of national entertainment. After the world crash of '79, massive civil unrest and economic ruin occurs. The United States government is restructured into a totalitarian regime under martial law. To pacify the population, the government has created the Transcontinental Road Race, where a group of drivers race across the country in their high-powered cars, and which is infamous for violence, gore, and innocent pedestrians being struck and killed for bonus points.
Women are still worth 10 points more than men in all age brackets, but teenagers now rack up 40 points, and toddlers under 12 now rate a big 70 points. The big score, anyone, any sex, over 75 years old, has been upped to 100 points.
In the year 2000, the 5 drivers in the 20th annual race, who all adhere to professional wrestling-style personas and drive appropriately themed cars, include Frankenstein, played by David Carradine, the mysterious black-garbed champion and national hero,
an arm in 99, with half a face and half a chest, and all the guts in the
Machine Gun Joe Viterbo, played by Sylvester Stallone, a Chicago tough guy gangster,
hated by millions.
Calamity Jane, played by Mary Woronov, a cowgirl, Matilda the Hun, played by Roberta Collins, a neo-Nazi, gladiator,
Navigator, Herman the German Fox,
and Nero the Hero, played by Martin Cove, a Roman.
Plus a brand new beast means Nero's not fiddling around.
Machine Gun Joe Viterbo, the second-place champion, is the most determined of all to defeat Frankenstein and win the race. A resistance group led by Thomasina Paine, played by Harriet May Dean, a descendant of the 1770s American Revolutionary War hero Thomas Paine, plans to rebel against the regime. Currently led by a man known only as Mr. President, played by Sandy McCallum, by sabotaging the race, killing most of the drivers, and taking Frankenstein hostage as leverage against Mr. President. The group is assisted by Paine's great-granddaughter Annie Smith, played by Simone Griffith, Frankenstein's navigator.
Don't you ever take off that mask?
No. Don't you know about my face?
I've heard stories.
She plans to lure him into an ambush in order to have him replaced by a double. Despite a pirated national broadcast made by Ms. Paine herself, the Resistance's disruption of the race is covered up by the government and instead blamed on the French, who were also blamed for ruining the country's economy and telephone system.
Frankenstein still out in front, headed due west, with Nero the Hero on his tail, hoping to pick up his leftovers. Calamity Jane's on a northwest tack.
At first, the Resistance's plan seems to bear fruit. Nero the Hero is killed when a baby he runs over for points turns out to be a bomb.
One thing before we begin. The government would like it if nobody said anything about Nero. Understand? He hit a tree and that's it.
Matilda the Hun drives off a cliff while following a fake detour route set up by the Resistance, and Calamity Jane, who witnessed Matilda the Hun's death, inadvertently drives over a landmine.
Holy shit.
This leaves only Frankenstein and Machine Gun Joe Viterbo in the race, as Frankenstein nonchalantly survives every attempt made on his life during the race, and he comes to discover that Frankenstein's mask and disfigured face are merely a disguise. He is, in fact, one of a number of random wards of the state who are trained exclusively to race under that identity, and each time they die or are brutally mutilated, they are secretly replaced so that Frankenstein appears to be indestructible. The current Frankenstein reveals to Annie his own plan to kill Mr. President. When he wins the race and shakes hands with Mr. President, he will detonate a grenade which has been implanted in his prosthetic right hand. However, the plan goes awry when Machine Gun Joe Viterbo attacks Frankenstein and Annie is forced to kill him using Frankenstein's hand grenade. Having successfully outmaneuvered both the rival drivers and the resistance, Frankenstein is declared the winner of the race, although he is wounded and unable to carry out his original hand grenade attack plan. Annie instead dons Frankenstein's costume and plans to stab Mr. President while standing in for him on the podium. Before she is able to do so, Thomasina shoots Frankenstein, convinced that he killed Annie. The real Frankenstein takes advantage of the confusion and rams Mr. President's stage with his car, finally fulfilling his lifelong desire to kill him. Frankenstein becomes the new president, marries Annie, and appoints Thomasina as the Minister of Domestic Security to rebuild the state and dissolve the dictatorship. Junior Bruce, played by Don Steele, the announcer of the Transcontinental Road Race, opposes the race's abolition and impertinently claims that the public needs performances of violence. Annoyed by his complaints, Frankenstein hits Bruce with his car and drives off with Annie to the cheers and applause of the crowd. About the film. Death Race 2000 1975 was directed by Paul Bartel and produced by Roger Corman. The movie was inspired by a short story titled The Racer by I.B. Melchior. The casting of Death Race 2000 includes David Carradine, Sylvester Stallone, Simone Griffith, and Mary Woronov. Death Race 2000 1975 was filmed on a modest budget in various locations in California, including Los Angeles and Death Valley. The production was known for its low-budget, guerrilla-style filmmaking techniques. The music and soundtrack of Death Race 2000 were composed by Paul Kahara. The score features a mix of electronic and orchestral elements, enhancing the film's action and dystopian atmosphere. The movie was released in April 1975 in the United States. The production budget of Death Race 2000 was approximately $300,000. It grossed over $5 million at the box office, making it a financial success. Critically, Death Race 2000 received mixed reviews upon its release. While some critics praised its satirical elements and over-the-top action, others criticized its low production values and gratuitous violence. Despite its mixed critical reception, Death Race 2000 has gained a cult following over the years, particularly among fans of B-movies and cult cinema. It is often cited as a quintessential example of exploitation cinema from the 1970s. The success of Death Race 2000 led to several sequels and spin-offs, including Death Race 2008, a remake directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, and a direct-to-video sequel titled Death Race 2, 2010, Death Race 3, 2013, and Death Race 4, 2018. In 2017, Roger Corman produced official sequel to original Death Race 2000, 1975, called Death Race 2050. 10 interesting facts about Death Race 2000 movie. 1. Both David Carradine and Sylvester Stallone did much of their own driving in this film. In addition, producer Roger Corman drove in scenes that were shot on public streets, since the custom-built cars that were used in the film were not street legal and the film's stunt drivers did not want to be caught driving them by the police. 2. The custom-built cars used in the film did not run most of the time, so they had to be pushed down hills in order to get them to move at all. Moreover, the cameras used to film the cars were undercranked in order to perpetuate the illusion that the cars were going faster than they actually were. 3. Only 2 cars survived the filming. The Bull Car and Frankenstein's Car. 4. While not a direct tie-in item to the film, Excite released an arcade video game in 1976, Death Race, that was inspired by it. 5. The role of Frankenstein was originally offered to Peter Fonda, who considered the film too ridiculous for words and turned down the role as a result. 6. Frankenstein's Dragon Car and Machine Gun Joe V. Turbo's Machine Gun Car were rebodied Volkswagens, and Matilda the Hun's Buzz Bomb Car was a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. Nero the Hero's Roman Lion Car was built on a Fiat 850 Spider chassis. Calamity Jane's Bull Car was a Corvair. 7. The opening sequence of the film was shot at an actual racetrack in between races. 8. The appearance of the comic book character Judge Dredd was inspired by the visuals of David Carradine as Frankenstein in this film. In turn, Frankenstein has sometimes been linked as the inspiration for the appearance of Darth Vader in the George Lucas Star Wars film. This has never been able to be confirmed, although the appearance with Frankenstein and Darth Vader is disconcertingly similar. 9. According to Roger Corman, the cars that survived the filming were later sold to car museums for significantly more than they cost to build. 10. Matilda the Hun's Buzz Bomb Car has an obvious resemblance to the original Nazi V-1 flying bomb.
I only mashed him slightly.
Put him out of his misery, Joe.
Hey, is that fair?
Yeah.
Hey, should I let him go? Fair's always right.